Yes, the universe has been listening. When you whisper your desires in the silence of your heart, you may believe they dissolve into the void, unnoticed and unanswered. Yet, the truth is far stranger and more wondrous. Nothing that stirs within you is ever lost. Every thought, every longing, every fear, and every secret hope is carried into the fabric of existence. The universe is not deaf to your inner life, it reflects it. What you resist grows stronger. What you neglect festers in the shadows. What you embrace with honesty begins to unfold in unexpected ways. Life itself is an intimate dialogue between your soul and the world around you. You may think you are small, but in reality you are bound to an ancient order of meaning that stretches beyond time. The coincidences you call chance, the patterns that repeat, the dreams that disturb your sleep, all are answers, all are signs. They are not random, they are the language through which the universe replies. Your responsibility is not to control the conversation, but to listen to it, to recognize that your inner state shapes what returns to you. When you change within, the outer world shifts to mirror that transformation. When you seek truth with sincerity, the universe responds with clarity. When you live in denial, it answers with confusion. Every thought and emotion resonates beyond the self, leaving an imprint on reality. This truth is not merely a poetic metaphor. It is the very foundation of our existence within the living web of the cosmos. What arises in the mind does not die within the mind. A fleeting idea, a silent prayer, a passing fear, all of these subtle stirrings extend outward, shaping the atmosphere of our lives and the lives of those around us. To believe otherwise is to imagine ourselves as sealed chambers, closed systems unaffected by the greater whole. Yet no one is a closed system. We are porous beings, connected by invisible threads, each thought and emotion flowing into the collective sea of human experience. When a thought emerges, it is not nothing. It is a vibration, a movement of energy, even before it takes shape in words or actions. It exists, and existence itself is never without consequence. Think of how a single word can shift the mood of a room, how a glance can alter the course of a conversation, how the quiet presence of someone in despair can be felt without a sound being uttered. These are not mysteries, they are signs of the silent communication that happens on levels deeper than speech. The universe listens not with ears, but with being itself. It registers every frequency we emit. Emotions, too, are not confined to the chambers of the heart. Anger, joy, grief, love, each radiates outward, just as heat radiates from a flame. The individual who carries bitterness unwittingly sows it in the air around them. Those who carry peace transmit a serenity that others feel instinctively. This transmission is not an act of will. It is inevitable. We are not simply thinking beings, we are broadcasting beings, each of us radiating the state of our inner life into the greater field of existence. The collective unconscious, a reservoir of shared symbols and instincts, is shaped not only by the distant past, but also by the currents of the present. Each person contributes to it with their silent offerings of thought and feeling. When you nurture an idea, even in solitude, you are feeding the larger mind of humanity. When you indulge in destructive fantasies, you strengthen the shadows of that larger mind. What is within does not remain within. It seeps into the hidden channels that bind us all, echoing far beyond the horizon of your own life. Consider the way a dream can hold an image that belongs not only to you but to countless others. A symbol, ancient and universal, rises from the depth, linking you to those who came before and those who live beside you. In this way, your private mind is never entirely private. The dream is your doorway into the reality that every soul is tied into a greater tapestry. Just as you inherit symbols from the collective unconscious, you also contribute to it with your lived experience. Your joy becomes part of the reservoir of joy that nourishes others. Your despair adds weight to the ocean of despair that burdens humanity. In this exchange, every thought and emotion carries significance. It is tempting to dismiss thoughts as insubstantial, as though only the tangible has meaning, yet we forget that everything tangible begins as the intangible. Every structure, every invention, every work of art was first a thought. Before the cathedral stood, there was a vision. Before the novel was written, there was an image. Before nations rose, there was an idea. The immaterial precedes the material, just as lightning precedes thunder. To entertain a thought, even for a moment, is to touch the raw material of creation itself. Whether it becomes constructive or destructive depends on the attention we give it, the energy we invest in it, and the emotions that accompany it. The emotions that fuse with thought are like currents that give it force. A passing notion, when charged with passion, becomes a magnet that draws reality toward it. Fearful thoughts tend to summon the very situations we dread, for the universe reflects not the content of the words we speak, but the energy of the feelings we embody. Hopeful thoughts, when nurtured with faith, attract possibilities that align with their essence. This is not magic in the trivial sense, but the deep alignment between inner state and outer manifestation. Life is a mirror, and the reflection cannot differ from the face it reveals. Even science offers whispers of this truth. The observer cannot be separated from the observed. The act of attention alters the experiment. In the same way, our attention shapes reality, not only through direct action, but through the resonance of thought and feeling. We may not yet have instruments sensitive enough to measure these subtle vibrations, but our lived experience is evidence enough. We feel the weight of unspoken hostility in a room. We sense the presence of love before a word is uttered. These are not illusions, but manifestations of the unseen field in which we live and move. Every great transformation of human history has begun with thought charged by emotion. Revolutions were born from the restlessness of minds no longer willing to remain silent. Works of genius arose from the passion of a single heart that dared to imagine more. Entire cultures shifted because individuals entertained new visions of life. If such changes can happen on the scale of history, why should they not happen in the smaller universe of your own existence? The same principle holds true. Your thoughts and emotions are the architects of your reality. They set the tone of your relationships. They carve the path of your decisions. They shape the events that return to you. It is therefore not enough to act without awareness of what you think and feel. The seed precedes the fruit. If the seed is poisoned, the harvest will be bitter. If the seed is tended with care, the harvest will be nourishing. Guard your thoughts, not because they are private, but because they are not. Guard your emotions, not because they are hidden, but because they are contagious. What you carry within yourself spreads outward like ripples on a pond, touching shores you may never see. When you begin to recognize this, responsibility deepens. You are no longer a passive passenger in the unfolding of your life, but an active participant in the creation of meaning. You cannot control the vast movements of fate, but you can shape the quality of your response. You can cultivate thoughts that bring light instead of darkness, emotions that heal rather than harm. By doing so, you alter not only your destiny, but also the field of existence in which countless others dwell. This is why every thought and emotion matters. They are not fleeting, inconsequential sparks. They are messages, vibrations, and seeds. They move outward into the universe, leaving an imprint that endures. The universe responds to the inner state of the individual with patterns, coincidences, and symbols. What appears to be random at first glance is often the language of a greater order, whispering through the fabric of daily life. Many dismiss coincidence as chance, yet the psyche knows when something more profound is unfolding, when the same numbers appear repeatedly, when a song echoes the exact words of your thoughts. When a stranger speaks a sentence that answers the question you never voiced, you are not merely encountering randomness. You are experiencing the subtle dialogue between your inner condition and the outer world. It is often said that the world is a mirror, and this is truer than most are willing to accept. The situations that arise, the people you meet, even the obstacles that confront you are not separate from the state of your soul. They are reflections, dramatizations, and symbolic enactments of what stirs within. The unconscious, vast and unrelenting, communicates not only through dreams but through the arrangement of outer events. When something inside you is ignored, it finds its way back to you in the world outside, demanding your recognition. What you refuse to face inwardly becomes an actor in the theater of your life until you cannot avoid it. These patterns are not punishments, nor are they rewards. They are mirrors, precise and uncompromising. The universe does not judge, it reflects. When you carry anger, you find yourself surrounded by situations that provoke it. When you carry peace, you encounter opportunities for harmony. Life bends itself to reveal to you the state of your being. Even suffering is not without its symbolic meaning. It is the universe showing you where the wound lies, where healing must occur, where growth demands your attention. To see suffering as senseless is to miss the encoded message it carries. Coincidences are the footprints of this dialogue. They are the signs that inner and outer life are not separate but woven together. When you think of someone and they call, when you dream of a place and then encounter it, when your thoughts align with the unfolding of events, you are touching the mystery of synchronicity. Such moments pierce the illusion of separation. They remind you that your soul is part of a larger order, one that listens and responds. To ignore them is to walk blind through a world that is speaking to you at every turn. Symbols are the alphabet of this universal language. They appear not only in dreams but in waking life, in animals that cross your path, in objects that repeat, in images that haunt your imagination. A bird at your window may not be just a bird. It may be the emblem of freedom seeking to enter your life. A broken clock may not be merely broken, it may be a reminder of time wasted or time regained. These are not superstitions but expressions of meaning arising from the intersection of psyche and world. The symbol carries both personal and collective significance, drawing from the deep well of the collective unconscious. It is through symbols that the universe addresses the soul directly. Bypassing the limitations of literal speech, to notice these patterns, one must learn to listen differently. The rational mind dismisses them as coincidence, but the deeper mind recognizes their necessity. The more attuned you are to your inner state, the more clearly you see its reflection in the world around you. A restless mind finds a restless environment. A tranquil heart encounters peace in unexpected places. When you awaken to this interplay, you begin to live not as a victim of random circumstance, but as a participant in a meaningful dialogue. Every event becomes a page in a book written for your growth, your understanding, your awakening. Consider the individual who continually meets betrayal. At first, it seems they are unlucky in relationships, doomed to encounter the same disappointment again and again. Yet if one looks deeper, the pattern reveals itself: an inner wound, a hidden belief of unworthiness, a fear of abandonment. The universe mirrors this state through repeated experiences until the person turns inward to heal it. Once the inner state changes, the outer pattern dissolves. Life ceases to repeat the lesson once it is learned. The coincidences that once wounded become the milestones of growth. This responsiveness of the universe is not mechanical but symbolic. It is not about simple cause and effect but about resonance. What you hold within resonates outward, drawing to itself situations of similar frequency. It is not that you think a single thought and the world obeys instantly, but rather that the totality of your being sets a tone, and life orchestrates events in harmony with that tone. The coincidences are the notes of that song scattered across the score of your existence. Those who walk through life with awareness recognize that nothing is trivial. The lost key, the delayed train, the overheard conversation, all are threads woven into the larger pattern. To awaken is to see that every thread carries meaning, and the pattern as a whole is a reflection of the soul's journey. When you resist, the pattern repeats with greater force. When you embrace the lesson, the pattern transforms and new possibilities emerge. Dreams and waking life are not separate realms but complementary halves of the same whole. What appears as a symbol in a dream may reappear as a coincidence in the day. The unconscious communicates with relentless creativity, ensuring that its message cannot be ignored. Those who dismiss it as meaningless wander through life, blind to its depth. Those who pay attention discover that they are never alone, that existence itself is a conversation with something greater than the self. This dialogue is not about control, but about participation. You do not command the universe to respond to you in a particular way. Instead, you recognize that it already responds unfailingly to the truth of your being. The patterns are there, the coincidences unfold, the symbols arise. The question is whether you will see them, whether you will listen, whether you will allow their meaning to transform you. To live with such awareness is to live in intimacy with existence. You begin to sense that every moment is alive with significance, that even the ordinary conceals the extraordinary. The universe is not a distant mechanism, but a mirror pressed against your soul, reflecting its every movement. When you realize this, you understand that life has been speaking to you all along. The coincidences, the patterns, the symbols, they are the universe's way of saying, I am listening and I am answering. Resistance strengthens what we fear, acceptance transforms what we embrace. This truth lies at the very heart of human suffering and healing. When we resist something within ourselves, we do not diminish its power. Instead, we feed it with the energy of our struggle. The more we push against a shadow, the deeper it embeds itself. The more we deny an emotion, the louder it knocks on the doors of our consciousness. Resistance is like gripping a rope in a contest with a force larger than yourself. The harder you pull, the more tightly you are bound. What we fear does not fade because we turn away from it. It grows stronger in the darkness we leave unexamined. Fear thrives in avoidance. Consider the anxiety that arises before facing an uncomfortable truth. If you resist it, if you distract yourself, if you numb yourself, if you pretend it does not exist, the anxiety grows. It infiltrates your dreams, tightens your chest, steals your peace. The shadow feeds on the energy you spend in fleeing from it. Yet when you stop, turn, and look directly at the thing you fear, something unexpected occurs. Its form becomes clearer, and with clarity comes the first taste of freedom. Fear often magnifies itself in the imagination. In the light of awareness, it loses much of its monstrous shape. This is why acceptance is not weakness but transformation. To accept does not mean to condone or to surrender to destruction. Acceptance is the willingness to see things as they are without distortion. It is to say, this exists, this is part of me, This has a place in my experience. By bringing it into the light of consciousness, you deprive it of the secrecy that grants it power. What has been seen cannot manipulate you in the same way. What has been embraced no longer lurks in the shadows, plotting your downfall. The paradox is striking. What we fight controls us, and what we embrace releases us. A person who hates their anger will find themselves enslaved by it, erupting in moments when they least desire it. But a person who accepts their anger as a signal, as energy in need of direction, can channel it toward protection, justice, or creativity. The anger itself transforms under the gaze of acceptance. What was once a destructive fire becomes a flame of clarity and strength. The same holds true for grief. Those who resist mourning, who suppress tears, who deny the depth of their loss, often carry that grief like a hidden weight for years. It emerges in unexpected ways, through bitterness, through fatigue, through unexplained sadness. But those who accept grief, who allow themselves to feel it fully, discover that grief is not only pain, but also love in another form. It transforms when embraced, becoming a bridge to memory, a teacher of compassion, a reminder of the depth of human connection. This principle extends beyond the personal into the collective. Societies that resist their shadows, whether injustice, violence, or prejudice, find those shadows growing stronger. Suppressed truths erupt in conflict, in division, in upheaval. But when a collective chooses to face its darkness with honesty, when it accepts responsibility for its wounds, transformation begins. Healing is never possible without acceptance. What is denied festers. What is acknowledged begins to mend. Resistance also reveals itself in the way we approach desire. When we fear our own longings, when we resist them as shameful or unworthy, they do not vanish. They emerge in distorted forms, in secret indulgence, in compulsions that erode our integrity. Yet when we accept our desires as natural expressions of our being, they no longer need to twist themselves into shadows. Acceptance allows desire to be understood, refined, and integrated rather than becoming a hidden force that governs us from the dark. The unconscious is relentless in its need for integration. It does not allow what is denied to simply disappear. It presents it again and again, in dreams, in relationships, in life's recurring patterns, until acceptance opens the door to transformation. This is why resistance strengthens what we fear, because resistance keeps it alive, keeps it excluded, keeps it untransformed. Only by opening ourselves to what is hidden do we begin to see its true nature and purpose. Think of the image of a river. To resist the current is to exhaust yourself, to feel the force of the water as an enemy. But when you accept the current, when you learn to move with it, the same force carries you forward. Life's challenges are like this river. When resisted, they become crushing. When embraced, they reveal themselves as the very flow that leads you toward growth. Acceptance does not remove difficulty, but it transforms the way difficulty is experienced. It turns suffering into meaning, struggle into strength, wounds into wisdom. The psychological wound is not healed by denial. A trauma left unacknowledged continues to reverberate in the unconscious. The individual may resist remembering, resist feeling, resist reliving the pain, yet in doing so they bind themselves to it even more deeply. Healing begins when the wound is brought into the light, when the pain is accepted as part of the self's history. Acceptance allows the psyche to reweave the wound into the story of the self, to transform it from a source of silent torment into a foundation for resilience. Even at the spiritual level, resistance binds and acceptance liberates. To resist the mysteries of life, to demand certainty in a world of flux is to create perpetual anxiety. But to accept that life is mystery, to embrace uncertainty as the natural state of existence, is to find peace within the unknown. The universe is vast and incomprehensible, but acceptance opens the heart to its beauty. Resistance fears what cannot be controlled. Acceptance marvels at what cannot be contained. This does not mean that one must passively endure everything. Acceptance is not the same as resignation. Resignation closes the door to transformation. Acceptance opens it. Resignation says, "This is all there is." Acceptance says, "This is what is, and through embracing it, I may discover what more is possible." The difference is subtle but profound. Acceptance is active engagement with reality as it presents itself, not denial, not avoidance, not despair. Thus, the law is simple yet profound. Resistance feeds the shadow. Acceptance transforms it. The monster you run from grows in power. The monster you face reveals itself as part of your own forgotten self. To resist fear is to multiply it. To accept fear is to learn its lesson. In every corner of the psyche, in every encounter with life, the choice remains resist and remain bound, or accept and become free. The outer world mirrors inner transformation. What we perceive as external change is often a reflection of what has shifted within us. The world does not stand apart from the psyche. It bends, reshapes, and reorganizes itself according to the silent architecture of our inner life. When an individual awakens to a new state of consciousness, the environment begins to echo this awakening. The people encountered, the opportunities that arise, the obstacles that dissolve, all bear the signature of the transformation unfolding inside. It is not that the universe suddenly changes its laws, but that perception, energy, and resonance alter the way reality presents itself. A person who dwells in despair perceives a world drenched in shadows. Every event seems hostile, every possibility futile, even beauty, when it appears, is met with suspicion or dismissed as meaningless. This perception is not the objective world, but the projection of inner turmoil. When despair is healed, when the inner life is infused with hope, the very same world begins to appear different. The same streets seem brighter, the same conversations more alive, the same challenges infused with purpose. Nothing outside has changed, and yet everything has. The outer world is a mirror, and the reflection depends on what the soul holds within. Transformation within does not remain hidden. The individual who cultivates peace emanates peace, and the world responds in kind. Conflicts that once seemed inevitable begin to dissolve. People who once mirrored hostility begin to soften. Encounters take on a quality of harmony. The world arranges itself in correspondence to the new state of being, as though it were always waiting for the signal to shift. It is as if life says, "As you are within, so shall you find me without." This is not superstition, but the natural law of resonance. What vibrates in the heart reverberates in the environment. Even in the most ordinary details, the mirror is present. A person filled with gratitude finds reasons for gratitude multiplying. Small gestures of kindness appear more frequently. Opportunities for joy seem to arise without effort, and synchronicities begin to cluster around them. Conversely, the one who lives in bitterness finds endless reasons to remain bitter. The outer world faithfully mirrors the inner landscape, offering confirmation of the reality we choose to nurture. It does not judge, it simply reflects. This mirroring is most evident in relationships. The people who enter our lives often embody aspects of ourselves we are either nurturing or neglecting. A partner may mirror our unhealed wounds, drawing them to the surface so that they can no longer be ignored. A friend may reflect our hidden strengths, showing us qualities we have not yet fully claimed. Even adversaries serve as mirrors, confronting us with shadows we resist acknowledging. To blame the other is easy, but the deeper truth is that the encounter is a reflection of the unfinished work within. The world of relationships is a hall of mirrors in which the soul comes face to face with itself again and again. Transformation, therefore, is never isolated. When one person changes inwardly, the ripple extends outward, touching family, community, and even strangers. The mother who heals her inner wounds brings healing to her children. The teacher who cultivates inner patience fosters patience in students. The leader who transforms inner fear into vision shapes the destiny of those they guide. The mirror is not confined to personal experience, it extends into the collective. Humanity's outer reality, the wars, the injustices, the structures of society, mirrors the collective state of its inner life. Only by transforming inwardly can the outer structures truly change. The unconscious plays a central role in this mirroring. What is hidden within insists on making itself visible. If an individual represses anger, the outer world will present situations that evoke anger, forcing it into the light. If love is buried beneath layers of fear, encounters will arise that invite the heart to open again and again until the inner love is acknowledged. The unconscious uses the outer world as a stage on which to project its dramas. Life itself becomes a symbolic play written by the psyche and enacted by the events and people we meet. To see this clearly is to understand that every situation carries meaning, every challenge an invitation, every blessing a reflection of something already alive within. When inner transformation occurs, the symbols shift, the recurring nightmare dissolves, the repeating conflict ceases, the heavy pattern loosens. The outer mirror responds faithfully like a river reflecting the changing colors of the sky. At first, it may seem miraculous. The world softens, new doors open, unexpected allies appear. Yet this is no miracle. It is the inevitable response of the universe to the new state of being radiating from within. As the psyche heals, the world ceases to wound in the same way. As the heart opens, love appears in forms previously invisible. Even in solitude, the mirror is present. The individual who cultivates inner stillness discovers that the natural world begins to echo it. The forest seems more alive, the ocean more vast, the stars more intimate. Nature reflects the state of consciousness with remarkable fidelity. For the restless, it is indifferent. For the quieted soul, it is a living conversation. The world is not separate from us, but continuous with us, and our inner state determines how we meet it. The danger lies in believing that the mirror is objective reality. When we assume that the outer world is fixed, we become prisoners of our projections. We complain of the hostility of life without realizing we are feeding hostility within ourselves. We despair at the emptiness of the world while refusing to nurture meaning in our own souls. To awaken is to realize that the mirror changes when we change. The outer cannot be divorced from the inner. To transform one is to transform the other. This is why all true revolutions begin inwardly. A society that seeks change without inner work merely rearranges its outer forms while leaving the underlying shadows intact. Only when individuals confront and transform their inner lives does the collective mirror begin to reflect justice, compassion, and wisdom. The world cannot offer what we refuse to embody. The mirror will only show us what we are willing to become. Thus, the outer world waits patiently for the inner transformation. It does not force, it does not rush, it simply reflects. When we are ready, it shows us the new image, the new path, the new life. What was once a hostile landscape becomes fertile ground. What once seemed barren bursts into bloom. The mirror does not lie. It reflects faithfully the truth we carry within. To change the reflection, we need only change the self that stands before it.